Welcome to the Divine Purpose Podcast, where we transport you along one of the more dynamic journeys of life. Have you ever been curious to know what it takes to become a successful leader? Or about knowing the secrets of life through the Bible? How about engaging in conversation where no topics are off limits? We will take you to new levels with guests who can help you grasp the importance of your calling. Now, here's your host, Eddie Dacius, founder of Dacius Facilities Management.
Hey, I can't hear you. Now I do.
Hey everybody, this is that's this week here. Excited to be on MLK Day. We have good stuff for you today. We're excited. We have our panelists who's gonna be introducing everybody, and we hope you guys are ready. We're gonna have a great conversation. Now we're gonna introduce Pastor Jean, Free Pentecostal Church of God. And we also have Stephanie Delia, we have Jean Womelis, and we have Girling Gercy. So this is Pastor Jean. Pastor Jean, how are you doing today?
Good evening, everyone. I am very happy to be here with you guys tonight.
Pastor Jean, how are you doing?
I want to make sure you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Beautiful. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Pastor Gene Lewis, and I'm just happy to be here with you guys tonight. I'm looking forward to some beautiful discussion in regards to a beautiful subject. So God bless you guys, and I'm happy to be here with you guys tonight.
All right, now we're gonna introduce Stephanie Delia. Stephanie Delia, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
All right, we're great. So we have Stephanie Delia. She's an attorney. So we're gonna be introducing Jean Womelis. Jean Womelis, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here with everyone. I'm looking forward to building and joining Divine Purpose.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. We have Jean Womelis. So Jean Womelis is a chief administrator. And we have Girling Gercy. Girling, how are you today?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm so honored to be here amongst such wonderful company and really looking forward to getting into this conversation.
All right, so now we have Stephanie. We have Claude Jean Aspiller. Claude Jean Aspiller, how are you today?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm great. So we introduce everybody. So we're going to try to have a great conversation. And so what can you guys tell me about you? Let's go with Jean Womelis. What can you tell us about you?
Hey, I am a purposeful individual. My purpose is to impact, improve human health and well-being. I am the managing partner of Romulus & Son Consulting. And what we do is help people meet milestones of purpose. We work with education and health-related organizations for project management, organizational development, and change management. We're growing at a rapid pace. And yes, that's who I am. I'm here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation and what we're able to give to the people as action points to increase purpose. Because, again, my purpose is to improve human health and well-being. And so through this conversation, I hope we do that.
All right, well said. So we're going to go with Stephanie Delia. So what can you tell us about you?
Hey, thank you. So one, I'm so honored and privileged to be here. I appreciate you guys, and I'm glad I get to spend MLK Day having this discussion. But I'm an immigration attorney. I've been one for 10 years now. I'm also a mommy and Haitian person who's lived in the community my whole life. I was born in Haiti, and I'm a Black woman in America. So I think in a nutshell, that explains my whole experience.
Wow. Thank you, Stephanie. So we're gonna go with Gerlin Gersey. Gerlin, how are you?
Excellent. Yes, my name is Gerlin Gersey. I'm currently a communications manager and strategist. I believe in driving clarity and excellence in all forms of communication and how we interact with everyone. I'm also a grief advocate and completely in line with purpose and walking in our God given calling. So I am, again, honored to be here to drive this conversation with you all purposefully and to really be able to glean around Martin Luther King Day with you all.
Right, right. Thank you, Gerlin. So now we're gonna have Claudia Jean Aspiller. How are you, Claudia Jean?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm good. What can you tell us about you?
Yeah. Well, my name is Claudia Jean Aspiller. I go by Claudia for short. I am a first generation Haitian woman. I was raised in Port-au-Prince, Haiti for 15 years, and I moved to the US 12 years ago. I completed my bachelor's in business administration, double majoring in global business and management at Suffolk University, and I recently earned my master's in gender and cultural studies at Simmons University. I
Wow.
proudly now serve as the senior program manager at Chica Project, which is an organization with a mission to close the opportunity divide for Latinas and young women of color, which aligns so well with my personal mission and purpose of elevating and advocating for young women of color.
Oh wow. Thank you, Claudia Jean, and congratulations. Wow. And so now we have Pastor Jean. So Pastor Jean is my pastor, and he was my first guest. So we give him the platform to introduce himself.
Amen. I'm so happy to be here with everybody here tonight. Again, my name is Gene Lewis. I am a senior pastor at the Free Pentecostal Church of God. Like Eddie said, I am honored to be his pastor. Just a little bit about me. I am a Haitian born also. I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and I moved here to the United States a little bit young. So not like our guest that said she just transitioned 15 years, but when I was 3 years old, we moved here in the United States, and I've been raised here. I have a bachelor's in computer information systems at Bentley University, and I'm pursuing my master's degree in theological seminary, my divinity degree in at Gordon's Conwell Theological Seminary here in Boston. Also, I am a husband of 17 years this August. A father of two. We just had a pandemic baby last year, to whom Eddie is one of the godfather. He is the godfather, and uh, and I'm just happy to be here tonight because again, I hear a lot of my panelists speak on purpose. My my desire in life is to master the three E's: engage, enlighten, enable, encourage, and empower people all over. So I'm excited to be here.
So let's go deep. So now we're gonna go for the first questions. We're gonna go for the first questions. Pastor, can you go? When was the first time you learned about MLK, and did you learn it? Did your learning take place at home?
Very good, very good. I would love to have answered this question and say yes. My learning of MLK I came at home, but no, it did not come at home. I actually started learning about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in school. So maybe as early as you know elementary, but not. It wasn't as effective. I really didn't grasp everything until maybe my middle and high school ages. So that's when I was brought to awareness of MLK.
All right. So Stephanie, what about you?
Same thing. I learned it the very first time about him in elementary. Unfortunately, it was not at home. However, unlike the pastor, I think I truly delved into his life and his story and his impact on my life when I was an undergrad. I took some African American studies courses, and at that point, I had an understanding that was different than what I had learned in elementary, junior high, and high school.
Okay. And so we have Claudia Jean. What about you?
I would jump on the same bandwagon as everyone here. I did not learn it at home, but started learning it when I first got to the US in high school. But it didn't really resonate with me quite yet. And I think work started resonating a little bit more once I started my master's in gender and cultural studies and was exploring race theories. And he was one of the scholars that we had to read. So then I got more into his work and the meaning of that.
Yeah, we'll ask Jean Womalis.
Yeah, well, I learned first of Martin Luther King in PS 138 in Rosedale, Queens, where I grew up. A lot big Haitian community.
Yeah.
I feel like I grew up. If you weren't Haitian, you were Jamaican. So like 80% of us was one or the other. So big West Indian influence. But that's where I learned about Martin Luther King. It wasn't. It's not so much talked about in the home as our other panelists have outlined. But then when I learned it, that's what I learned about the August 28th speech of I Have a Dream. And, you know, that's how we're all introduced at a young age as Black Americans to um, Martin Luther King and to the struggle of civil rights. So, you know, we are Haitian American, but by being Haitian American, we are about Black Americans. So I think, yeah, you know, we share that identity, and that's what I learned.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So, Gerlin, what about you?
Likewise, like everyone else, I really started to hear about Martin Luther King for the first time in school, in elementary into middle school. And then later on in my undergrad studies, I took some African American studies to further my education. So I learned not just about him, but our other predecessors in this fight. And I also took an African American lit class, which supported the context of Martin Luther King and what he was reporting. So it evolved over time, but mainly came from my studies and where I latched on. I wish I could say it was in the home, but it was primarily in school.
Thank you for sharing. So, for people who just got in, so this is Divine Purpose Podcast MLK Day Special with Gerlin Gersi, Stephanie Delia, Jean Womalis, Claude Jean Aspilier, and Jean Lewis. So, the subject is the MLK legacy, race, relation in America from the Haitian immigrant perspective. So we will go with another question where so what should Haitian take from his legacy? We'll go with Claudia Jean if she can tell us what Haitian should take from MLK legacy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, what Haitians should take away from his legacy is the staple model that he has provided to combat inequality still for this day, and that we all have to remind ourselves to not get comfortable in our current state and that there's always more to do. And I feel that Haitians should also realize that too many people are relying on us as a Black collective to be able to recognize and be able to fight for the inequalities that still exist today.
Yeah, so you guys will agree that, and as everybody share it, so they didn't learn it at home. What message will we give the next generation?
Hmm.
What do you guys think we should do? Because everybody said they learned it from school, but can we take this opportunity to kind of share, like, and to look for way to get it better, where we can have that conversation ourselves with our peers? I don't know. What do you think, Stephanie?
I do. I think Martin Luther King looked at the state of Black people and decided not that it wasn't acceptable, but he did something about it and risked his life, and some can say lost his life um, in order to gain equality. And that story isn't so different from Haitians' plight, right? We led the first revolt and was the first free republic. And so it seems that his values are so aligned with ours. I'm surprised we don't discuss it more, but I think this is a great opportunity to start.
No, definitely. So Pastor Gene, as a pastor, and I think the community, the Haitian community, can benefit with the legacy of MLK. So, what do you think we could do better? And do you see that our future generation will know more in terms of the education of MLK?
I'm going to answer, the last question that you said in the series of questions that you asked. First, I pray that the Lord community can gain um, from my work of Reverend Dr. Immigrant. I think what really is not just the church, but Haitians, that we can grasp. I heard a lot of our panelists speak of this. I think that as the nation, as the people of Haiti, there's a lot of things that that align with that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was. He was a brilliant man in pressing for civil rights things. But I think one thing that we haven't mastered, and I'm finding that we do master, and I'm learning every day. I mean, there's certain things that unless we take the time to do them and really try to understand, it's going to be tough. One of the things that really marks me as I mentioned in Dr. Martin Luther King are the things that were that are never being brought up in class.
Okay.
We hear about the I love, I have a dream speech. We hear about, all of the, all of the nice, rhetoric. I wouldn't say rhetoric, but nice things, but there are other things that have meat and teeth, and they really speak to, the things that we're really wanting. One of the, I posted this other day on my Instagram. Every time I post, I just don't want to just post, like a happy MLK day. We want to make an impact, like the panelists said. We want to make an impact. So you have to find, certain things that resonate with you. So one of the posts I found from whether or not Luther King was life most consistent in every question is, what are you doing for others? And I think as a basic community, I think this is something we haven't mastered yet. So, and my prayer is that, as we align with a lot of things that, was Martin Luther King, that we can also understand, some of these important truths that we our motto in Haiti is "Union for la force," but I don't think we mastered that. That we need to work. We need to ask ourselves the question every day: what can we do not only for ourselves, but what can we do for others?
Oh, all right. Thank you for sharing. So the next question we have is, can you guys hear everybody? Can you guys hear? You guys hear me?
I hear you. I hear you well. I think
Okay.
you might have had a little bit of trouble last time.
All right. So next question: what barriers do Haitian immigrants face when adjusting to society in post-racial America? So some people will not agree on that, but I don't know. So, Gerlin, do you wanna take it back at that question?
Sure. I think the plight as Haitians and Haitian immigrants, for myself, a first generation Haitian American, where I have Haitian parents that were born in Haiti, I think as we're looking at a post-racial America, we're seeing a lot of common themes around just the acceptance. And when we look at Martin Luther King, we look at, hey, that was a monumental fight. We want institutional freedoms, but realistically, over 54 years rather, at this point, we're still working through those issues in detail. And with the immigration crisis that we're not strangers to at this time. It was widely publicized. We saw everything happening and unfolding. We're seeing the real cracks that are in the system at this point, and it's going back to the basics with our rights. So I feel like at this point for us as Haitian immigrants, looking post-racially, post-racial is really not the best representation because we're still in a racial fight and divide. Um,
Yes.
Earlier, we were the first people to really have a successful slave rebellion, and we
Yeah.
are venerated for that in that place. But then we come here into America where these freedoms have been hard won and fought by evidence of Martin Luther King. And for a country and a people, and in our fiber, all of us representing here and extended, we are still working through the reality of post racism when it's real racism on a daily for us.
Wow. Wow. And Jean Lewis, like you just said, and thank you, Gerlin, for your take on that. So, Pastor Jean, the reason I go back to you is because I think we didn't hear you well, but I don't know if you want to add anything on that question, and then we'll go with Stephanie and Claude and then Jean Wamelis. I don't know if you want to go or Jean can go. Jean Wamelis can go on that question too.
So we thank you, Eddie. I want to make sure that I remember the panelists that just spoke. Her name is
Gerling Gersi.
Ger-
Gerlin.
Gerlin did an excellent job. And giving you a little taste. I was reading an abstract and in an article that I was reading, and this is what I lifted out the text in the abstract. So it's not my words. It says, like many other Caribbean immigrants, Haitians suffer double invisibility as immigrants and as Black immigrants, or double visibility as blacks in the eyes of whites and as foreigners in the eyes of native born blacks. So just like it's really said, we we still sometimes some people don't want to hear that we're talking about racial divide. Some people get tired of it, and they feel that maybe we're beating a dead horse, and it really isn't a dead horse, because again, this is not something that has been happening that happened many years ago or centuries ago. I don't think it's even been 100 years since we've received certain liberties and freedoms as Black people. So we suffer from these things, not only as Black people, but as Haitians also. Like the abstract said, either a double invisibility or a double visibility. So
Yeah, I don't know if Jean Wambelis, I don't know you want to answer. You mute.
you,
I'm just
Yeah.
writing this down. Double invisibility. That's an incredible term. And I had double racism written down, and I thought I coined it. And meanwhile, my other man, the Gene, one of the Genes on the panel list, because this is a Haitian panel, so we gotta have Genes on the panel, and we got some Gene ladies in there, and that's perfect. That's beautiful. So this double racism we're talking about is a real thing. There's actually a organization, FBA, Foundational, I think Black Americans, and they seek to institutionalize the reparations process, to discriminate for people who can trace lineage to a certain time, and trace maybe slave masters, and trace locations here in the U.S. But as we, for the large part, is just a boat stop that differentiates us. Africans, West Africans, ripped from our homelands from 400 years ago, and also the brain drain that's continually happening towards the United States, pulling from these countries. So we do face that double racism when we come here. It's a real thing. It's a human family. So we can transcend, and I think that's one of Martin Luther King's legacies. Main legacies is to transcend humanity, and actually that's what we need to do. So I think a lot of Haitians, a lot of Black Americans, a lot of us have taken up that mantle to transcend, and we just got to keep having conversations like this, keep supporting divine purpose, so we do that.
I will jump to that question. Have you ever experienced racism?
Me? Oh, who's that? Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I have. Growing up here, we were again half Haitian, half Jamaican in Rosedale, Queens. I went to the Business, Computer Applications, and Entrepreneurship Magnet High School in Cambria Heights, Queens, or formerly known as Andrew Jackson. So I experienced racism, but I didn't see it. The racism experience that I had there was that 1 in 4 of us graduated high school on time. And so
Okay.
it's hard to see that racist effect on,
Mm.
on myself as a high school. But the first time I've experienced it firsthand is when I moved to Florida, Central Florida. So I lived out of there where a lot of our Haitian people are. Shout out to Little Haiti in Miami, but that's where I first experienced racism because I was a manager for a gas station near a truck stop. So these truck stops are hotbeds for a lot of right wing ideologies and just the grouping of that type
Yeah.
of thing. And it was next door to actually a club. So one time he came in, a guy came in. He said, put my money on the counter when I tried to give him his change back. And so, I was taken back. I put the money on the counter, and he was yelling at me. It was unintelligible what he was saying. But I was working, and I was trained Haitian, so we're trained to have good manners. And sorry, an apology came out. But another Black American from the South, um, he has a different experience with that racism, and he was more educated on how to respond. And he immediately came after him and looked me in the eye and said, "No, don't do that." And he didn't say much after that, but I could understand what he was trying to communicate to me, and it was dignity. So, yep, I experienced racism here, definitely.
So the question is also for everybody here. I don't know if you guys want to share your experience, and because at the end of the day, I would be surprised if nobody experienced it.
Mhm.
I don't know if any of the ladies, and forgive us, ladies. Normally, the ladies would go first, but us guys will forget some of these questions. So if you guys don't mind, I'll go quickly. I had 2 instances in my life that I can remember on racism. First, when I was young, but I just like Jean said, I didn't understand what I was experiencing, and I think each and every one of the panelists can understand what I'm talking about. There was this period of time when I was in middle school, let's say around the 1990s, where it was not cool to be Haitian. It was something detrimental, and I would go to school, and I would be picked on all the time by many other um, um, school students, and it would cause us as Haitian people to come together. And I'll never forget that because of the unity, it would protect us sometimes. But there was one time I was in the bathroom by myself, and 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 and, um, and one of the bullies came, and I never knew how to fight. It was just through my experiencing in racism that I had to teach myself to fight. Often I want to be like Martin Luther King and be peaceful, but sometimes you got to be like Martin Malcolm X too.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah.
so it wasn't until I fought back, that I got peace from the bully. So that was my first experience, and then second experience is ironically almost like Gene said, was in the gas station. And what was saddening about my second experience is my parents always told me you got to work hard in order to get yourself to certain levels. We got to dress nice, so that people can take you, respect you well. You got to attain the best schools. You got to do all of these things, and I've done them. I graduated from a very good school, and the experience that I had at the gas station, and I clearly can remember today. It was in a very affluent area, a Caucasian affluent area here in Boston. I don't want to say the name, but I got into the gas station, and it was very perplexing to me because when I go into the city, you have to pay. You have to pay before you pump your gas. But for some reason, in this city, you could pump your gas and pay later. And it was so strange to me that when I got out the car, I took a moment to watch everybody doing what they were doing, and and everybody was pumping and everything. So I said, okay, if the sign says pump before you pay, I'm gonna pump. And immediately as I took the pump handle off the tank and put it into my car, the owner of the gas station ran out and started yelling from the top of his lungs, you have to come and pay. And I was so taken back and embarrassed, and I put the gas nozzle back in, and I walked into the store, and I expressed to the guy, I said, "Do you not have a sign outside that says pump and pay?" He's like, "Yeah," and I said, everybody else is pumping, and you never single them out. Why are you still singling me out? And he was very apologetic because he saw that I wasn't some uneducated person, but I was an educated person, and I explained to him there's a sign out there that said that. So he was all, and at that time I voiced to him, for me, I didn't want to fight him, but I explained to him I went to school, and I explained to him what school I went to, so I understand the signs out there. And I refused to pump my gas that day, and I left. But that was an experience that marked me because it helped me understand that it doesn't matter how hard we work sometimes. Martin Luther King said it in his speech, that people can judge us by the content of our character rather than the color of our skin. And still to this day, we're still fighting for that. So these are my two experiences. And here in Boston.
I don't know. We wanna go for next. If we don't have anybody, so we'll go to the next question. The question is, so how impactful do you think the Black Lives Movement is in the Haitian community? I don't know if you guys can share and talk about it.
I can make a comment on that. I actually have a hilarious story about that. When I don't remember how many years ago now, but several years ago, I remember I live in New York. I'm in Queens, close to Gene. Actually, we're neighbors. Hello, in Queens Village. But my cousin and I were in downtown Manhattan, and it was right around the time that the Black Lives Matter started to get some traction, and they were forming. They were starting to get together to do a march. And my cousin and I, both of us, obviously born in Haiti, were standing there, and one of the people there, obviously talking to us, was like, "Come on, and join." And I remember, and by the way, there were a ton of police. Let's say it was like 15 Black people gathering. There had to be 50 cops lined up, right? And we weren't bothered. We're just kind of like, yeah, we're accustomed to this. And so Black kids are like, hey, come on, join us. And we're like, yeah, Black Lives Matter. Go ahead, we support you. And my cousin said out loud, he was like, oh, no, we're Haitian. We don't march. And the guy said, what does that mean? And he says, legit. He was like, no. If we walk for hours, when we get to our destination, something's going to go down. Like, We don't do that.
Mm.
Now, the important thing of this story is that there's like 50 cops behind us. And I was like, yo, bro, like,
Oh, dear.
we don't
Yes.
do that, right? But it was this, and of course, we had a really good laugh. And, we're like, hey, Black Lives Matter, all Black people are the same. We love you, we support you. And then, they shouted out, so they're like, good looking out, Haitians, first ones to get your independence. And it was this love. We did not march. We ended up winning 8. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story was, I think one of the things I found, and I digress a little because that was my first experience with Black Lives Matter, and I always remember that. But during this crisis with the migrant issue, I remembered Tamika Mary, one of the leaders um, in the Black Lives movement. Well, not Black Lives Matter, but in that racial justice movement, along with a few others, came out to speak on our behalf. And there was, I think in my lifetime, was the first time to see non-Haitian Black justice fighters say, no, these are our people too. And this looks way too similar to slavery. And it brought me joy, in a moment of sadness. It felt good to feel seen. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, thank you. I don't know, Gerlin, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I really liked that story. It had me reflecting on the Black Lives Matter movement and how far it's come over the last couple of years. I also think there um, is a difference between the popularity that it's gained and the essence of what the purpose is with the Black Lives Matter movement. That has caused a lot of also division too amongst people, and then has taken some other spirals. But overall, when I think about our community and it being impactful, I mean, the Black experience in itself is something that is inclusive for a lot of us. Outside of being Haitian, it is an inclusive experience as Black people living in America. So I think under the umbrella, if you will, of unity for that purpose, I think it has been really impactful and helpful. And I'm not sure about the full affiliation with Black Lives Matter for the Haitian community around immigrant crisis. I won't speak to that because I'm not knowledgeable. But I think the visibility itself has caused a lot of traction for
Okay,
us and is leading headway for us to continue on and to even unify ourselves under that umbrella as well.
okay. How about you, Clara Jean?
I think
Anything you want to add?
yes, yes, absolutely. I think to Berlene's point and Stephanie as well, what I would want to add is that um the Black Lives Matter movement has really made us realize how we all fall under the same umbrella when it comes to how we show up in the US. And I think that before, well, I don't want to speak for everyone, but for me, I wouldn't say that I particularly felt that I fell into that same bucket. I felt that there was a separation, but learning more about what the Black Lives Matter movement stood for and how those issues not only impact African Americans, but it also impacts us was very powerful for me. And I think that it also transcended to the Haitian community as well. This call to action and a reason to really come together for just to unite to fight on a common issue that we're all experiencing, no matter what ethnic background that we're really coming from.
I think everybody had a chance to answer that question, and I really appreciate that. So we go to the next question, which is: do you think MLK's effort have improved race relation for Haitian immigrants compared to others? So I'll go with Stephanie on that question for her input.
Yeah, honestly, unfortunately, no. I think one of the things that happened after the Haitian migrant crisis and Haitian immigrants' history with the US has been slightly different historically. I say that to say, you could date back to years ago, over 30 years ago, when I think they had a very different process for Cubans than they did for Haitians during the 80s. Um, and then after that, in the 90s, when there was a crisis, there was still this. It hasn't always been as easy for Haitians to get asylum in the U.S. as other nations, and we're experiencing that today, right? Prior to the Haitian migrant crisis, um, there was this huge outcry about how South American immigrants were being treated. If anything, a lot of us will say a lot of the support for Biden has been because of the backlash in response to that for Trump, right? And so suddenly it's Haitians coming in, and all of his ideas about being inviting to immigrants stopped, right? All of a sudden it's no, we can't come in, and so we're experiencing a lot of the same issues that we faced under Trump, except this time Haitians and Black immigrants are being highlighted. And so, if you look at the history of not just Black immigrants, but specifically Haitian immigrants, and how at every turn of the way, from you know being told that Haitians brought AIDS to America, to the fact that Haitians are some of the lowest groups to get asylum, substantially less than almost anyone else, to having this huge response to resettlement for Afghanistan's, and then literally packing up planes and shipping Haitians back to Haiti right after an earthquake, right after determining that Haitians are entitled to temporary protected status because the conditions were so horrible right after an assassination, right? Despite all of that, it was absolutely not, they cannot come in, you must ship them back. And by the way, deportations are still happening, right? We're being denied the right to apply for asylum. Those are very specifically targeted to Haitians. Um, Considering that we're celebrating Martin Luther King Day, there's a lot of talk about voting rights, there's a lot of talk about racial justice, there's a lot of talk about equality for Blacks. But despite all of those talks, there's a lot of comfort with treating Haitians differently. And that makes me, it's disappointing, but there seems to be this acceptance of it, that not all immigrants are the same. Haitian immigrants are unique, and that we must be shipped back. And there cannot be, there's no space for us. There's no money for us. There's no resettlement for us. It's pack us in place and send us back. So,
Wow.
bottom line is no, I don't think Martin Luther King's advancements have benefited us. But I do think he wanted us to be included. I think if he had his way, we would have been. And so I say that to say it's not his fault. It's, I think, like I said, I think he's aligned a lot with the views of Haitians. And he probably knew some of us in his day, and we probably were part of the team.
Oh, well said, well said. So the question is, do you think MLK effort has have improved race relation for Haitian immigrant compared to others? I don't know if Jean Romelis wanna give us his thought on that question.
I wouldn't say compared to others. No, I wouldn't put that division on what MLK did and what MLK stood for. But his struggle and what he did also benefited all Black Americans, and all Pan African, African diaspora. So his struggle definitely permeated, at the time. Papa Doc Duvalier was in office when Martin Luther King was doing the fight before he got the Civil Rights Bill passed in 1964, and he recognized Martin Luther King. He put a homage, of a martyr of nonviolence to Reverend Martin Luther King, when he was assassinated. So we definitely recognize, as Black, as Africans, as diaspora, African diaspora, the relation of Martin Luther King's struggle and the struggle of Haiti, and the struggle of Haitian Americans who are Black Americans. And it's always been one and the same.
All right. So I don't know if Gerlin, do you wanna add anything on that question?
Yeah, I think between Stephanie and Jean. It was so well captured, and especially because Stephanie is in the trenches of the immigration crisis. It was just so well captured. But if there's anything that I can add, I feel very similar to her in that it appears to be more of a dotted line more than a direct line. I mean, we get the benefits of as Black Americans now living here of Martin Luther King's sacrifice and struggling that. But for us as Haitians, Haitian Americans, Haitian immigrants, there's still much work to be done and to be felt in that regard. I feel like there has been, to Stephanie's point, a comfort in being treated different. And at this point in 2022, reflecting on events of 2021 and prior to that, historically 30 years ago, um, the evidence is you can't ignore it, how differently Haitians are treated when it comes to asylum, et cetera. So I think at this point, as we're looking forward into 2022, now that literally, it can't be hidden anymore, it's going to take a real up level of advocacy, of conversations like this that we're having, to be able to try to move that needle more and try to work into the systemic issues that are very, very present and very real and real barriers when it comes to particularly our people, the Haitian immigrants.
Oh, thank you, girl. And Pastor Jane, anything you wanna add?
I think all these ladies and Jean also. So Berlin, Stephanie. There's one more name. I'm bad with names, so you guys forgive me on this. So I know there's Gerline. I know there's Stephanie. There's
Let's
one
go
more.
to Jean.
Claudia Jean. Thank you, Claudia Jean. Don't worry, I'm not gonna forget that. Claudia Jean. Um, um, each and every one of you guys said something very essential. I believe that if Martin Luther King, was alive, I mean, he would want everybody to benefit from what he was speaking about. The only thing I can add, because again, I think Berlin said this. I mean, everybody, spoke very, eloquently, especially Stephanie. Stephanie, you're the immigration specialist.
She's the lawyer.
So you're the lawyer, you're the immigration specialist. How you crafted it was very well. The only thing I can add, I truly, truly believe, and this is my belief that even though we as Haitian, as a nation, we are treated differently from other people. I truly believe that there's also another layer of responsibility that falls upon us ourselves in trying to make the difference. Yes, I agree. There are other forces, that are not allowing us. Because again, when you look at this country, it wasn't until now we're starting to see Haitian representation in the government. So prior to this, we really didn't have, if it's for restaurants, we got restaurants in this country, baby. If it's for churches, we got churches in this country. But if it's for businesses, we got businesses. But we haven't been able to, to break that glass ceiling to get to that echelon of government where representation matters. So the reason why we get the short end of the stick sometimes is because many other groups of people have people in those rooms. um, they have voices in those rooms so that they can speak for that demographic, and we Haitians, we don't have it. So that's one layer. The second layer, like I said, I really believe that if Haitian people in general can really understand the model of Haiti, Union fait la force. By ourselves, we are so strong. Um, we master resilience as a Haitian people by ourselves. I mean, I think any panelist that all my panelists here on the podcast tonight, we can identify a Haitian entrepreneur that has started from zero to something. I mean, when we look back at our parents coming from another country into a country, some of our parents mastered, they doctored, and they had to restart all over again, to make it in this country, to set us on a good level. So individually, we have that determination and resilience, the know-how, the wisdom, the everything needed. But a collective voice is where we continue to see the problems. And you can see that not only in this country, but you can see it in our country also. So even if Martin Luther King, even if we could have benefited from, the things that he's doing, uh, I think those two layers are really impacting us so that we don't really reap the benefits of the hard work. So I pray that, we stop looking just at what other people are doing to us, but rather now we say, hey, you're my brother, you're my sister. And just like Martin Luther King said, in his quote, that, may this be that question that we're all asking ourselves: what are we doing for each other?
Wow, thank you, Past. Thank you, Past. We have Claudia Jean to answer the question. What do you think about Madakin effort compared to others? Um,
Wow, how do I even follow with such such great points that you've all made? Just what I think I could add to this discussion here is that to Pastor Jean's point, I think that there's a lack of us tapping into our power, and it goes back to our which is Union Federal.
yeah,
And I think that we all have our own areas of expertise so much that we forget that the power is in us to be able to collaborate with one another, to be in those rooms where we're not. And I think that's where we're seeing the lack, how do I even put this? I think that's where we see the lack of action when it comes to us as a people. And
yeah.
I think, Pastor Dean, you said it best. And I feel that if I add any more to this, it will dilute it down. So I will keep it to that. But to all of you guys' point, they were so well elaborated. I
Yeah.
just have to leave it as that.
No, thank you guys. Thank you guys. So get closer. So this is the biggest question. So now Haiti is always referred to as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, even though we are the first free black nation. How can we change that? I'm not gonna say who's going, so you guys go. I don't know. I'm out of ideas.
Ladies first.
Ladies,
Ladies first.
S'il vous plaît.
yeah.
Or
Who's going first?
If the ladies don't want to go, then again, I'm going to revert back to what we said. Um, if there's anything about Haitian people, we're a proud nation, and that's one of the things that we can be, grateful to God for. And the pride that we're talking about is not necessarily arrogance, but the pride that we're speaking about is that, we know who we are, and we know where we came from, and that's what gives us the strength, to wake up every day and to live. Um, um, when I hear, that Haiti is the poorest of the way of the Western hemisphere, it always rubs me, the wrong way sometimes, because again, um, we're poor not only because of what we're doing, but we're poor because again, you need to go and do the research and understand why Haiti, from our history, uh, uh, why Haiti is in the position that it is in. Yes, some of it is self-inflicted, by us, but most of why we're in the position that we are in is due to a lot of, the first the big powered countries. So so when we're answering that question, I'm always very careful to teach people. You know, yes, we may be the poorest in this hemisphere, but let me show you how we got there, and then let me show you too that we've done some great things as the poorest, nation, and we continue to do some great things also, and it's the hope, and my prayer is that we never lose hope. And I know a lot of people are losing hope, and it gets dire sometimes, the news that we hear that's happening in Haiti. But as long as we have hope, that there can be change, because there's a generation that's coming, and I encourage everybody, and I let them know, we those people in power will not live forever. There needs to be there has to be different generations that are coming, and with this generation that's coming, may they have different, philosophies, ideologies. May they have different, ways of thinking, so that they can ultimately bring us, together. So I don't want to preach a sermon, but I'm gonna let you know the Bible says very clear that weeping endures the night, but joy comes in the morning. So tonight, I mean, we may be in the night in Haiti, but every day we go to sleep, the night can never tell the day that it will not give way to it. So at 5:59, the night has to give way to the day. So we just waiting for our day. And as long as we have hope, our day will soon come, like Martin Luther King said. God bless y'all.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, Pastor. So I don't know who wanna go next. Like I said, the question is for everybody, and I'm just wanted to hear what can we do better.
Um,
Why?
I guess I can try. The pastor made a couple of really important points. One, that part of the reason we're here is because of the powerful countries and everything from the funds we owed France to the international treaties to not do business with us, um, to the penalties. And so there's been a lot of intentional effort to keep Haiti um, in a state of poverty. I also think more recent policies, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of interest when there's a crisis in Haiti to go do, kind of go help us, right? And then they leave. And so it's a lot of funds that are paying people that are Americans and Europeans to go to Haiti, get paid well to work in Haiti, and then take back the rest with them. Um, it might be, I think it would be interesting to see what would happen if funds had to be used by Haitian citizens, right? Where you may control who you hire, but you must actually hire Haitian citizens. Perhaps have long-term projects, right? Where the project's expected to pay a certain amount of time over a 10-year period instead of build a house and leave. I think considering there's a lot of just European and American policies going to a Haitian country with the intent to help people that I think is kind of a savior mentality, as opposed to looking at the land as a jewel, right? A jewel that we've misunderstood, that we've attempted to break, that we've robbed, that we've stolen from, that we've taken advantage from, but that still has a lot of wealth that still needs to be, I think, healed. And and so I think perhaps new, more long-term strategies, working with Haitian citizens, right? So that you're not going and doing something for them and leaving, but really empowering them, especially Haitians. I mean, good gracious, we are the bomb. We got this. Like you, if you go build, we will help build, right? We're not people who are incapable of taking care of ourselves, right? We're cooking, we're cleaning, we're able to take care of the land. I think money matters, and so irrigating the land, getting clean water, resources, and kind of really understanding what is the issue with the land itself, right? There's a lot of, I think, rights being donated to us when we could grow our own. There's a lot of us being forced to buy things from other countries that we technically could sell to other countries that we have the best in, right? Like, I went to Haiti recently and got some kidnapped, and it was the bomb. And we have really great things. Really, West Kitty alone is
Yeah.
practically our diamond, right? Like, we have so many things. But the Haitian women don't mess with us, right? We could cook, we clean, we build. We will literally build the house, clean it up, decorate it,
Yeah.
and then bring the man in and bury babies. So I, I think, and God love, we love our men. We are here because of you. So I think between the people, the land, and the resources, we just need people to stop coming in and thinking that they're going to come save us, but instead understand they don't need to save us. They just need to take their foot off our necks, give us access to our land.
Oh,
I think we need a
man.
whole lot of faith and a whole lot of prayer. But I go back to the pastor because you're right in that, our day will come. I still believe that. So I think our belief in ourselves and getting together and really keeping the resources in the land is a good start. Where it goes from there, I don't know.
Is that okay to say preach, lawyer?
Stephanie, just put your cash app in the message.
All right, so I don't know who wanna go next. So
Got me going. No, Stephanie got me fired up.
No, speak. Let me hear it, girl.
Yes,
Go.
indeed.
Oh my gosh, you got me up here. You are 1,000 points, 1,000 infinity points to that, and to Pastor, just all of it. But I'll be honest, just this question alone has made me very indignant. Like, to be called the poorest country, or for that to be an assumption about us,
Yeah.
just riles up my blood a bit, honestly, because I think, as it's already been said, there's a lot of forces within the poverty designation, but there is this implicit commitment to misunderstand our country too. And we are rich in the foundation, in the agriculture, in beauty, in all of the things. But there is a real need to be invested in and for it to be stayed within. And the other side of that is there's also a poverty mindset, right? Which I don't believe Haitian people have because we're just looking at a small representation on this call. We have entrepreneurs, leaders, lawyers, all the like, corporate, etc. What a representation we are of the Haitian resilience, our aptitude. That should not even once be a question. And we are coming from a rich lineage of people we don't even have the time to go into of our own individual families, but yet collectively of how we have defied odds time and time again and will continue to be successful. So when I think about that and what needs to be done, some of that is in continuing to demonstrate our excellence and highlighting Haitian excellence, because I don't know any of us to be shabby. we don't have it in us to be, and additionally, I support the policy element of keeping it within our country. There has been a lot of duplicity in efforts in the savior complex and in coming in and leaving. It's been in and out efforts. And yes, we've been on the news for actual natural disasters, immigration crisis, etc. But those are topical, responsive things that are bringing attention to us. But there has been a jump readiness to meet those quote unquote needs without the investment to understand our country. So one of the hopes I have, Pastor, just going back to hope here, my hope truly is not just in these forums, but my hope is that we will continue to champion our country to be examples of what our people do and can do very well. And that in coming days, years, months, whatever have you, that there will be a change in tide and turn in people's, readiness to understand our country more.
Wow. Wow, well said, well said. So we have between Jean, Wamalis, and Clauder. Who wanna go first?
You want the last word, Claudia? Oh, you got it.
No, I can go. I can go. That's a lot of pressure. Just to add, I would say to Pastor Dean's point, Stephanie and Verlene, I think there's a lack of sustainability. The fact that um, foreigners constantly are have access to our country to come in and use up the resources of our land and still be able to go. And another thing that I'm thinking about, just like a funny story, I was in Florida, I think a few months ago, and we went to Little Haiti, and I wanted kidnap so bad, and we went to this Haitian. It wasn't a Haitian. Well, I assumed that it was a Haitian shop, but it wasn't. I'm like, oh, Little Haiti, like our people's going to be there, duh. So we walk into this shop, and I was with my pastor, and he's like, this is not Haitian. He picks up the package of Kinect, and then he sees made in DR. So then he goes and talks to one of the people that worked there, and it was a lovely Haitian lady, and he says, "Why is this from DR? We have such amazing Kinect. Like, I'm not understanding. I'm hearing our music here, obviously. I'm seeing our people here, but we don't own this. Why is this from DR?" And poor girl, she could not answer this for the life of her. She's like, I really don't know. But all to say that this story makes me think about the fact that we need to step more into our power, especially in places that is our own. I think that a lot of times others have more access to what is for us than we do, and I think that in itself is an issue because we're not being able to fully utilize the resources that we have from within.
All right.
Wonderful, beautiful. I mean,
So yeah, go ahead, Gene.
you is this transitional? I know you got smooth transitional things to say, but I think the panelists really took all the pieces that we need to put together to put into action in our own lives, and discipline ourselves, and take care of our little corner of the world, and then we come together, we meet at the top, right? And just bring it back to Martin Luther King. That's what he tried to do. He said the appalling silence of the indifference of the good people is actually what contributes and makes evil proliferate, right? So we need to, like the pastor said, highlight the PR part about it, right? People are talking these things, and they make you feel a certain way. And these PR campaigns for Haiti being the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere is purposeful. There's money in that saying. There's money in that phrase being proliferated. Philanthropy gets millions and billions of dollars to help Haiti, and specifically in the earthquake. American Red Cross, they got tens of millions and built 6 homes, right? So Haiti's the poorest country because it's the most exploited country. And so if we train ourselves to, whenever we hear that, come up with something in unison that we can all say, right? Like when you hear somebody say Haiti is the poorest country, you respond with, no, the most exploited country. And then people start to hear that, and people start to understand that. I heard somebody else say Haiti's a poor. Yeah, I heard somebody else say this. And then we start to change the narrative. And that's how narratives are changed. And I love how Stephanie highlighted the tangible solutions that we need to do to make Haiti not the poorest country, because we have resources, we have talent, we have international diaspora to support. And so there's is a path to increasing the wealth of Haiti, to keeping things in house. And she highlighted that very well, right? So along that PR thing that Gurleen highlighted too, we have a lot of excellence. So we need to just push that excellence forward, right? There's a lot of businesses actually, and Stephanie talked about it, that are exploiting the resources from Haiti. And Haiti's the poorest country as well, because the meter we use, the instrument we use to measure wealth. If we use bravery, if we use excellence, like
Yes.
Gurleen highlighted, if we use things that really manifest wealth, right?
Resilience. Yep.
If we use the raw resources, to Stephanie's tangible points, right? If the finished goods were finished and then exported from Haiti, then our poor status would disappear. So we need to just change the verbiage, change the mindset, do internal PR campaigns first in our minds, and then we can, after we decolonize our minds, can decolonize our conversations with others. And when people say things that make us feel a certain way, we understand and know how to respond as a people. So I think that narrative that Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere is purposely put out there to benefit philanthropy. And I know this firsthand because I was a founding member of an organization called Health Education Action League for Haiti. We serve 1,000 patients per year in our yearly health clinic that we did, and gave them 3 months worth of medication. It was a $30,000 a year endeavor that we did. And in partnering with different organizations and having different fundraising campaigns and speaking to different external consultants, they always give you the push. Why don't you say this? Why don't you say that, right? And why don't you highlight the destitute nature of your people? And why don't you say the word poorest country in the Western Hemisphere? It's a real thing that we are pulled to do. And it's a real thing that just, it generates a lot of revenue. And we can combat with starting with our hearts and minds and just reaching out people.
Wow. Woo, that was a lot. Thank you guys for sharing this. And one thing, I heard hope. I heard take action, change the narrative. What about if we do this? Speak to existence. So let's have everybody, if you had the power today to change Haiti with one word in Creole. So we'll go from Jean Wamelis.
Wait, what? Repeat the question.
The question is, if you had the power to change Haiti tonight with one word.
With one word.
In Creole, what it will be. So we'll go from Jean Wamelis, Claude, Gerlin, Stephanie, and Pastor Jean.
Lutter.
Lutter. All right. Claude.
I would say courage.
Courage. About Gerlin?
Force.
Force. About Delia? Stephanie?
L'union.
L'union. Pastor Jean.
Stephanie took my.
Yeah, I know L'union and Force. I just gave it to y'all. I was like, y'all just take that.
let me use the word la foi.
La foi. So if I had a chance to say something I'll say it's time for changement. Changement. Guys, thank you. That was great. I'm sorry for going over, and I think we had a great time. So we have a few people on the chat. So la foi, lutter, l'union. What did we say again? Changement. Yeah. So thank you guys. This was our first panelist. So we had a great time, and I appreciate everybody to be here and talking about their experience and sharing some advice. So last word for everybody. We'll start with Pastor Jean.
Thank you. My last word is I was very happy to be here with each and every panelist. I thank God for each and every one of you guys. My prayer is that, just like Jean wrapped everything up for us. That this will go from from things that are in theory to applicable things that are in action. So thank you for to Eddie and Divine Purpose Podcast for bringing us together. I pray this is not the last time we get a chance to connect with one each and every one of you guys. So God bless each and every one.
Definitely, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Everyone here is so dope. It's
Mm.
refreshing, and I'm so happy that I was able to spend it with you, being Black on Martin Luther King Day with our people in the truest form, both Haitian and Black. It felt good to have this discussion, and I'm excited about what's next for us. And like the pastor said, I'm hopeful. I have faith, and it's a good place to be today. So thank
All
you.
right, girling.
Yes, a major thanks to you, Eddie, for this and for this wonderful panel of Haitian excellence that I have the privilege to be among. I am here to support all of you and all of your endeavors and hope to remain connected. And to everyone who is listening today, I pray that just from this conversation, we're all inspired to action.
Jean, Womalis.
I'm going to start off with what Claudia Jean said, step into power. We have to understand that it starts with ourselves. It starts with each person. And I'm so glad to join these panelists. And I'm so glad that they already highlighted the savior narrative. I heard that term used more times than I thought it would, and I didn't use it yet. So I really appreciate coming together and being able to talk about this, and also help shape our hearts and minds and help to shape the hearts and minds of people, because that's where it starts, and that's where King really wanted to empower. The king that they let live was an incredible leader. He unified a lot of people, our people, right? He was an incredible pastor. 86% of Haitians are religious, so we resonate with that. But the Martin Luther King that they killed is the Martin Luther King that was coming to Washington to get that check, and it's the Martin Luther King that was transcending just leading Black people, was leading the work legally, right? So um, I just want to end with what Martin Luther King said. The time is always right to do right. So just remember that every day, and just do that. Try to do that in every decision, and we'll have uh, 1,000 Martin Luther Kings in no time. And if you have 1,000 Martin Luther Kings and Martin Luther King is around, I think Martin Luther King will still be alive. So let's give up the savior mentality. Let's step into power, like Pauline said. And the time is always right to do that.
Cloder.
I would like to end this with gratitude. Absolutely grateful to be amongst patient excellence. And also, just to go back to what Dean Ramos was saying, is that the change begins with within our heart and within our mind. And I hope that we take this as a means to really stepping into our power. That's my phrase for 2022, by the way. And I will keep saying it until
I
the
love
end of
that.
the year.
I love
Um,
it.
so really taking that into consideration, because we we have so much within us that is to be discovered. And once we tap into that, oh my God, like the things that we can do. And I will end with this phrase, un pile main, chai pali.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
Yes.
Thank you, Uncle Man, Shaipa Alu. Guys,
Mary.
thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very, very, very happy we had it. And everybody did great. Sorry, Stephanie.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I know we had to go. Everybody, thank you for your time and we appreciate it. This is Divine Purpose Podcast with MLK Day Special. Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you all.
Bye.
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 Thank
Thank
you.